Emily was used to quiet afternoons. Her college classes had ended early, and with a rare free hour to spare, she decided to swing by the local grocery store. It wasn't the busiest place in town, just a family-run market nestled between a hardware store and a laundromat. She liked coming here because it was never crowded, and the parking lot was always half empty. She pulled her compact silver hatchback into a shaded corner, away from the entrance. It was habit more than strategy. Less chance of door dings, and she liked the quiet. She stepped out, locked her doors, and walked inside without giving her car another thought. The store visit was quick. She picked up essentials: some fruit, a frozen pizza, almond milk, and a pack of granola bars. At checkout, the cashier, a soft-spoken teenager with braces, commented on how warm it was for late spring. Emily nodded and smiled, making a mental note to grab an iced coffee on the way home. As she walked back out into the lot, she dug into her pocket for her keys, distractedly scrolling through a text from her roommate. But as she looked up, she came to an abrupt stop. Her car wasn't alone anymore. 3 large dogs, German shepherds, unmistakably were gathered around it. One stood alert near the front bumper, tail down but ears perked. Another was pacing slowly along the driver's side. The third lay stretched out under the back of the car, head resting on its paws, eyes fixed on her as she approached. Emily froze in place. Her first instinct was concern. Were they strays? Wild? Had someone left them here? They weren't barking. They weren't growling. But there was something intense in the way they watched her, something focused. She glanced around the lot. No one else was nearby. A few cars dotted the far end, but otherwise it was empty. Her heartbeat picked up. "Hey, hi," she said softly, more to calm herself than to greet them. She took a step forward. The shepherd near the front bumper shifted slightly but didn't move away. Its eyes didn't leave her. The one lying down blinked slowly, head still resting on the pavement. Emily hesitated. These weren't aggressive dogs. In fact, they looked more determined. But what were they doing? And why her car? She glanced toward the store's entrance, wondering if she should go back inside and ask for help. But something told her to stay, to watch a little longer. Something about this wasn't random. Something about this was deliberate. And whatever it was, it had only just begun. Emily took another cautious step toward her car, clutching her grocery bag in one hand and her keys in the other. The German shepherds didn't flinch. They didn't growl or bark, but their eyes tracked her every move. There was no mistaking it. They were guarding something. But what? She'd always liked dogs, though she'd never owned one herself. These weren't the kind of dogs you approached on impulse, though. They were large, powerful, and alert. And yet, they didn't feel threatening. If anything, they seemed worried, anxious, maybe even scared. The one near the driver's door took a few steps closer to the vehicle, blocking her path entirely. It sat down right in front of the handle, shoulders squared and gaze locked on her. It wasn't growling. It wasn't baring its teeth. But its message was clear. Not yet. Emily stood still, unsure what to do. She looked into the eyes of the dog sitting closest to her. There was something deeply human in them. An emotion she couldn't quite name. Was it pleading? Protectiveness? "Hey, I don't know what's going on," she said gently, "but I need to get in my car." The dog tilted its head slightly but didn't move. Behind her, the second shepherd let out a low, tired sigh and lay down, front paws stretched forward like it had been waiting a long time. Emily crouched down a little, keeping her distance. "Did someone leave you out here?" she asked softly. "Are you lost?" The first shepherd looked toward the back of her car for a brief second, just a flick of its gaze, but it was enough to make Emily follow its eyes. Her hatchback's windows were tinted, so it was hard to see inside from a distance. But now she noticed something odd. The blanket she kept in the back seat looked disturbed, as if something had moved under it. That's when she heard it. It was quiet, barely audible over the wind in the trees, but it was there. A soft, high-pitched whimper. Not from any of the three dogs in front of her, but from inside the car. Her breath caught in her throat. "What in the world?" she whispered, slowly walking around to the passenger side. The shepherds didn't stop her. They just watched. Something was inside her car. And from the way these dogs were acting, it wasn't just something. It was someone they cared about. Emily's hands trembled slightly as she reached for the passenger door handle. The dogs remained still, their eyes following her, but they made no move to stop her this time. There was something unspoken in their gaze now, a kind of permission, or perhaps relief. She took a deep breath and gently opened the door. Warm air rushed out from inside the car, and along with it came the faint but unmistakable sound of a whimper. Not the sharp bark of alarm, not the growl of defense, but a tiny, desperate noise. She leaned in, setting her grocery bag down on the floorboard, and slowly turned toward the back seat. At first, she didn't see anything unusual. Her blanket was bunched up just as before, slightly askew from how she'd left it that morning. Her mind raced. Was she imagining things? Had a sound from the street confused her? Then the blanket shifted. Emily froze. Something underneath it moved, just slightly, a small twitch, like a creature turning in its sleep. She hesitated only a moment before carefully peeling the fabric back. Her heart skipped a beat. There, curled in the corner of the seat, was a tiny German shepherd puppy. Its fur was soft and fluffy, mostly black with tan paws and a white spot under its chin. Its ears were too big for its head, still floppy, and its eyes, wide, dark, and watery, looked up at her with both curiosity and fear. It was no older than 8 weeks. Emily sat back, stunned. The puppy blinked and let out another soft whimper, then slowly tried to crawl toward her. Its little legs were unsteady, but it clearly wasn't hurt, just scared, and very much alone. Outside, one of the adult shepherds let out a short, low bark, not aggressive, but alert. Emily glanced out the door and saw all 3 dogs sitting now, still watching her. And for the first time, she understood what they were doing. They weren't guarding her car. They were guarding the puppy inside. Her thoughts raced. How did it even get in there? Had she accidentally left the door cracked open while loading groceries? Had the little one climbed in without her noticing? More importantly, what was she supposed to do now? She looked at the puppy again, now nestled into her lap. Whatever this situation was, it wasn't a coincidence. This was a family. And somehow, she had become a part of their story. Emily sat frozen in the passenger seat, staring at the tiny bundle of fur resting in her lap. The puppy had stopped whimpering, and now simply looked up at her, breathing softly. Its head rested against her wrist, eyes slowly blinking as if comforted just by human contact. It made no attempt to wriggle away or hide. In fact, it seemed relieved. She gently stroked its back with her fingers. The fur was warm, a little dusty, but clean. No signs of injury or neglect. Whatever this little pup had been through, it hadn't been out in the world for long. But it was small, so small, it could have easily gone unnoticed. Emily swallowed, guilt creeping in. Had she really not noticed it earlier? Had it crawled into her car while she was loading her groceries, hidden beneath her blanket without a sound? Outside the car, one of the adult shepherds stood up and approached the passenger side. It didn't bark or growl. It simply placed a paw on the doorframe and peered inside. Its eyes locked on the puppy, and its tail gave a slow, hopeful wag. Emily exhaled. "You're here for this little one, aren't you?" she said softly. The shepherd didn't answer, of course, but something about the stillness in its posture said everything. The other 2 dogs stood now as well, heads slightly lowered, ears twitching at every sound the puppy made. They looked like soldiers waiting for permission to rescue a fallen comrade. Emily turned back to the puppy. It had fallen asleep in her hands. She couldn't just sit there. These dogs weren't leaving, and now she understood why. They weren't strays looking for food. They were guardians watching over their smallest member. For how long, she couldn't be sure. Hours, all morning, maybe longer. But one thing was certain. They weren't going anywhere without the puppy. She glanced around the lot. Still no one nearby. No signs of an owner. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, but she ignored it. Her focus was on the 4 dogs. 3 outside, 1 asleep in her arms, and the quiet story unfolding in front of her. This wasn't just a coincidence. It was a reunion in progress. And somehow, by pure chance, her car had become the meeting place. The thought made her chest tighten. She looked again at the watchful faces outside her window. They weren't just waiting. They were trusting her. Emily sat still for a moment, listening to the rhythmic breathing of the sleeping puppy in her arms. Outside the car, the 3 adult shepherds stood like statues, unmoving except for the occasional flick of an ear or tail. Their posture wasn't threatening. It was patient, watchful, as if they had waited a long time for someone to notice what they couldn't say. She looked at them one by one. Each dog appeared worn but healthy. They were dusty, with small twigs in their fur, like they'd been moving through woods or fields. Not wild, not starving, but clearly out of place here in a grocery store parking lot. The one nearest her window stepped back slightly, giving her space, but never taking its eyes off the pup. The situation pulled at something deep inside her. These dogs weren't being aggressive or chaotic, like you might expect from strays. They were calm, focused, even gentle, and they were focused on the same thing she was: the puppy. Emily gently lifted the little one and turned so it faced the window. Instantly, the shepherd closest to her perked up. It pressed its nose to the glass and let out a short, soft whine. The pup, still drowsy, stirred slightly and made a tiny sound in return. Emily's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't guesswork anymore. This was family. She unlocked the door and slowly stepped out with the puppy in her arms. The shepherds backed up immediately, not crowding her or lunging forward, but gathering as a unit a few feet away. Emily knelt on the pavement and held the puppy out just enough for them to see. The reaction was instant and heartbreaking. The largest dog, likely the father, stepped forward and gently sniffed the pup's head. It wagged its tail and gave the puppy a soft lick on the nose. The other 2 followed, one nuzzling its side while the other let out a low, humming whine, as if relieved beyond words. The puppy, now more alert, gave a soft yip and wagged its tiny tail. Emily blinked hard. The scene in front of her didn't feel like real life. It felt like a moment stolen from a book, one filled with devotion, loyalty, and the kind of love no one taught, but every living creature understood. She looked down at the dogs surrounding her, then back at the puppy in her arms. They hadn't come for help. They had come for him. And somehow, they'd trusted her to find him. Emily stood in the warm afternoon light, surrounded by 3 watchful German shepherds and holding a puppy that had stopped trembling. The parking lot, just moments ago a place of confusion and tension, now felt like sacred ground, quiet, reverent, touched by something bigger than her understanding. But emotion wasn't enough. She needed to do something. Her phone buzzed again in her pocket. This time, she pulled it out, careful not to shift the puppy too much. She snapped a quick photo of the adult shepherds gathered around her, soft eyes, gentle tails wagging, and added a short post to the local neighborhood app. Found 3 German shepherds outside the Valley Mart. One puppy was inside my car. Very friendly. Looks like a family. Anyone know who they belong to? Within 5 minutes, her post had over 20 comments. One person recognized the shepherds from a recent lost dog flyer. Another mentioned seeing them near the creek trail 2 days ago. A third tagged a woman named Trish, who ran a nearby rescue group. Emily's heart raced with cautious optimism. Maybe someone did know these dogs. Maybe this wasn't the end of the road for them, but the way back home. Then her phone dinged with a private message. "Hi, I'm with Furry Hearts Rescue. I saw your post. I can be there in 20 minutes with leashes, food, and a scanner for chips. Don't try to load them up alone. Just keep them calm. You're doing great. Trish. Emily exhaled in relief. She led the dogs to the shade beneath a small tree on the edge of the lot, placing the puppy on the blanket she'd laid out like a tiny throne. The adult dogs flanked him protectively, still cautious of passing cars or distant noises. Emily stayed close, speaking softly, offering them bits of a granola bar from her groceries. They took it gently from her hand, one by one. By the time Trish arrived in her rescue van, the dogs had relaxed. The puppy was asleep again, curled into the curve of the largest shepherd's chest. Trish, a tall woman with kind eyes and steady hands, approached slowly. She knelt, scanning the adult dogs one at a time. Then the smallest scanner beeped. Emily held her breath. "Bingo," Trish said, smiling. "This one's chipped. Name is Scout. And we've got an owner on file." Emily stared at her. "You mean?" Trish nodded. "We just found out where these dogs came from." And just like that, the mystery began to unravel. Emily felt her heart leap at Trish's words. The moment she had hoped for, confirmation that these dogs weren't abandoned, but lost, was finally real. A family didn't just form between the dogs themselves. Somewhere, someone had been missing them. Maybe for days. Maybe longer. Trish tapped a few buttons on her tablet and read aloud. Scout. Registered 3 years ago. Owner. Mark Peters. Address just 4 blocks from here. She glanced at Emily. I'll give him a call. As Trish stepped away to make the call, Emily crouched beside the dogs again. Scout, the largest of the trio, rested calmly with his nose tucked beside the now sleeping puppy. The other 2 shepherds stayed close, almost as if they could sense that the moment they had been waiting for was near. Emily gently ran a hand along Scout's back. You're going home, she whispered. All of you. A few minutes later, Trish returned with a smile. He answered right away. He's been searching for them nonstop since Friday. Said the storm knocked down part of his backyard fence, and by the time he noticed, they were gone. He's been putting up flyers, checking shelters, walking the streets. He sounded overwhelmed just hearing they're safe. Emily blinked. That was 3 days ago. Trish nodded. Yep, and you probably picked up the puppy without realizing it. These 3 must have followed your scent, your car, stayed with it the whole time, waiting for a way to get him back. Emily was stunned. They never gave up. They wouldn't, Trish said softly. That's what makes dogs amazing. Loyalty like this. You can't teach it. They just know who their own are. 15 minutes later, a dusty blue pickup truck pulled into the lot. A man in his early 40s jumped out before it even came to a full stop. He had tired eyes and dirt on his jeans. The moment he saw the dogs, he ran. Scout, Bella, Duke, he called, his voice cracking. The dogs sprang to life. Tails wagging, they ran to him, barking with joy. The man dropped to his knees as all 3 surrounded him, licking his face, nudging him with their noses. Tears ran down his cheeks. Then he looked up at Emily and saw the puppy in her arms. He froze. His mouth trembled. Is that Max? Emily nodded, smiling. I think so. The man reached for the puppy like he was made of glass, and in that quiet moment, the pieces of a family fell back into place. The moment Mark cradled the puppy in his arms, the whole parking lot seemed to pause. The little shepherd blinked up at him sleepily, then let out a tiny yawn, as if recognizing the arms that had once held him. Mark closed his eyes, his forehead resting gently on the pup's head. Max, he whispered. I thought I lost you, buddy. The other dogs stayed close, circling around him like sentinels reunited with their commander. Mark laughed through his tears as they each nuzzled him in turn. Scout with his sturdy frame, Bella with her soft whines, and Duke wagging his tail so hard it thumped against the pavement. Emily stood a few feet back, unsure whether to step forward or give the moment space. Trish, sensing her hesitation, walked over and gave her a gentle nudge. Go on, she said. You're part of this too. Mark looked up as Emily approached. His eyes were red, his face streaked with dirt and relief. You're the one who found them. Emily smiled softly. They actually found me. The puppies somehow got into my car. When I came out, they were guarding it like their lives depended on it. Mark shook his head in amazement. That sounds just like them. I rescued Scout years ago. He was trained as a search and protection dog. When Bella and Duke joined us, they formed this tight little pack. And then Max was born 8 weeks ago. His voice caught. I was terrified something had happened to him. They never left my car, Emily said. Hours in the heat. Just waited. Protected him. Mark looked down at the dogs, then back at her. That's because they knew he was in good hands. And now I do too. For a moment, the air was filled with nothing but quiet joy. The wagging of tails, the soft sounds of dogs reunited, the distant hum of traffic forgotten. Trish stepped forward with paperwork and microchip updates, but even she seemed reluctant to break the spell. As Mark prepared to leave, he turned to Emily. If you ever want to visit them, or if you're thinking about adopting someday, you've got friends now. All 4 of them. Emily chuckled. I think I already have. She stood there watching as the dogs jumped into the truck. The puppy nestled in a makeshift bed of blankets. As the engine started and the truck pulled away, Emily felt something settle in her heart. It wasn't just a rescue. It was a reminder of loyalty, love, and the way fate sometimes finds you, even in a quiet parking lot on an ordinary afternoon.